Hello.
Yes, sir, yes.
Yeah, I just,
I can hear you, sir.
Latika, can I ask one question, please?
Of course.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Yeah. What about the ethical reviews, because ethics committees in many institutions, they meet quarterly, and with the type of fast tracking demand for these manuscripts, for the studies, I mean, what's happening in those areas, what is being done? Like what's
Sir, I think
happening
that,
in your institute, I had to ask you, for example.
sir, I think after I answer this, probably Vikas sir can add a little bit to the frustration that we are facing with respect to these kind of things.
Okay.
But they are doing their best. They are trying to meet and prioritize COVID-19 related research, but definitely more can be done. Would Vikas sir like to take this up?
Yeah, actually, I don't know about the other institutes, but what we are facing is any basic research related to COVID is getting an expedited review. But the problem is with the some kind of a clinical studies. If you want to try out some drug, then you need to wait for maybe 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
can add a little bit more. I sit on several ethics committees. I have been member secretary of the institutional ethics committee for the past few years. I think most of the ethics committees have keyed up and geared up to the present situation. In fact, both the ethics committees where I sit on are doing virtual meetings, and our turnaround rate for expedited review is about 2 to 3 days. Once the proposal is submitted, we send it out for review. It's reviewed and it comes back, and we are approving after corrections in 2 to 3 days at the earliest also, if the author keeps up on it. Most of the ethics committees are keyed up to it and are geared up to it. It's whether it's COVID or not COVID, it doesn't really matter, depending upon the importance of the research and the need for fast tracking it. In fact, a lot of non-COVID proposals have also gone through our ethics committee. But then the problem is that where are the patients? Most of the hospitals are functioning in revised modes or situations where they're not having a lot of non-COVID patients at all.
Yeah, I think it varies from institution to institution and from ethics committee to ethics committee. So difficult to say, but I think they are doing their best everywhere.
So Dr. Mohit Goel has this question. He says none of the ethics committee in his city has had a meeting since March. So,
Which city are you from, Mohit?
It's from Udaipur.
So Udaipur, definitely none of the ethics committees in my city is a very broad statement and depends upon what institutions are there in that city, which I may not be familiar with. However, I'm sure they have a medical college there, and some of the ethics committees, of course, would have to meet in virtual space to pass or to approve the proposals. Otherwise, there is definitely no way forward. There are no meetings happening in the very near future at all.
So Dr. Sabrinath has asked if ethical clearance is required for phone-based interviews. Yes, you require an exemption from review as per the ICMR guidelines, which is a tiny document. You just need to attach the survey and mention the purpose. So it depends if it is an audit of practices, and if it's completely anonymized, the data handling has to be specified. So it's a much shorter document than a routine ethics permissions. And it can be easily taken, but it is mandatory to publish in any good journal.
So you cannot decide whether your proposal is fit or not for exemption for review. You just request the ethics committee, and it's the ethics committee's decision whether to exempt you or not to exempt you. So you still have to apply to the ethics committee. Whatever their decision has to be then respected.
Any more questions?
So let me ask Latika. So what do you think, is because I think at the end of the talk related to social media, I'm a bit confused actually. Which way the scientific publications are going? I mean, what is in your view going to happen to the medical academic publishing? I say this because we always say what is the most important thing in clinical medicine, which is still actually the physical examination and attempt to arrive at a diagnosis. So certain gold standards cannot be taken away. So now, especially related to COVID, probably because of this physical limitation of a lot of things as we discussed today, there has been slightly, I think I would say that unwanted, perhaps, focus on social media outreach as the word which is used. So where does it lead? Who is going to judge the quality? Are the authors within their right, and here I would say morally and ethically, to promote their non-peer-reviewed research? Because I think that is the major contention nowadays. Comments?
So what I gather from your question is, one, the quality of research, and second is the methods of research, right? If I got it right. So
No, Latika. It's about social media. I mean, so social media is a tool where, all the, so see, one aspect is, we have said that even after peer review or, the limitations of peer review, the articles are being published. And the second aspect is social media has become a tool where all type of research or any piece of written word is being promoted by everybody. So where is the moral and ethical justification of, doing so in our traditional world?
right. So I think you're talking about preprints. So preprints are really the fashion these days in COVID times. A lot of people are uploading their research before it's been formally published anywhere and before it's undergone peer review onto preprint archives. Like we had also a lot of papers on the genetics of COVID, which were talked about. And some of these papers can be removed after that. It's very convenient to remove them. So that is the research you're talking about. Yes, definitely. We are seeing all kinds of research being promoted because these are times of adversity, and you have to take them with a pinch of salt if they've not undergone peer review. But a sizable number of those articles will undergo peer review and will be published subsequently. So it all depends on what kind of study it is and whether it's published later, but sometimes it can be useful. I wouldn't junk it altogether. But thinking that everything on social media is a preprint or has not undergone peer review is a bit of a stretch, because most of the research which is being circulated in academic circles is published research. And the altmetrics we talk about is published research where it is cited like not in terms of papers, but the other portals. So the importance that academics that is what we were discussing about. But I think that still carries a lot of relevance because the lay public is also important, and their usage of certain scientific findings is something that deserves mention.
Let me also add further to that question, because I can see where Dr. Ravindran's comment is coming from, especially because he's a journal editor himself and he needs to look forward where it is going. So in the COVID time, my understanding has been that a lot of information has circulated through a non-formal channel of the social media, which was not the case earlier. However, in the future, what I can see happening is easily that the formal journals which are available will be much less or would not be able to meet the demand that is required for publication, which is already happening. I have realized in my own career that it was very much easier to publish about 5 to 6 years ago, but it has become extremely difficult to publish anything even decently written in the current times unless you are willing to pay for publication charges or processing fee. So in the times to come, I can see that the demand is going to be far greater than the supply in terms of formal journals which are available. So a lot more people are going to take up to social media for articles which they are not able to publish or not able to publish very quickly. And most of these are going to be lapped up or accepted by a ready audience, which is not very keen to wait for a formal publication and is willing to accept the information as it is coming. We saw a glimpse of this in the COVID times because a lot of information was circulated and accepted and applied even before it was going through a process of peer review at different editorial processes. So my take would be that every journal should be ready to promote their own case and cause through a social media channel as well on different platforms, depending upon their acceptability and their ability, which should include articles beyond and over what they are coming out in a published space. So like saying that if they were starting off with a print version and then had to move on to a website, it's time that they move on to social media. Sorry, should stop.
Yes, definitely. It is important to regulate all this flux of information and reduce misinformation. So we need portals where it can be regulated and everything is curated, checked, and then delivered to the lay public. That is definitely important. We have a few more questions. Dr. Rita Asman has asked that case series are not mentioned in many journals, in which category they should be submitted. So a lot of journals accept them as case reports. Up to 5 cases, most of the journals count as case reports and case series together, while the journal specifics can vary as well. So you need to go through their instruction to authors to know more. There is one more question. What is the difference between a concise report and letter to the editor? So it's usually the word limit. A concise report for most journals is 1,500 to 2,000 words, while letter to the editor for most of the journals is 400 to a maximum stretch of 800, sometimes 1,000 if you're lucky. So that's a huge difference. So in a letter, it need not always have original data, while a concise report is usually original data and original research. Although you can sometimes publish smaller pieces of original research as letter to the editor. Then Dr. Mohit Goyal is saying, can studies requiring full review be dealt with in virtual meetings of ethics committees? Yes, at our institute, at SJPGI, most of the meetings have been virtual until now. So yes, they can be taken up for a full review, but it depends how many panelists are available. And many committees are uncertain about this. I guess it varies from institute to institute and also the cities. Guidance is as per what Dr. Durga told. Maybe you'd like to touch upon, I think Dr. Durga has left, but yes, as per the ICMR document, we can go about it. And you may refer to that for further details. Any further questions? All right, then it was great meeting all of you over these sessions. And if you have any queries, please feel free to write to us. We will be sending you a feedback form shortly. Thank you and good night.